Okay, so picture this. A workshop that looks super successful from the outside. It's busy. It's making good money. But secretly, it's a total house of cards. The entire operation is basically held together by a wild mix of spreadsheets, old school paper forms, and what one key person can remember. We're about to dive into how that kind of chaos was completely transformed into a stable, scalable business.
And the stakes here? They couldn't be higher. This isn't just some little side project. We are talking about €1 million a year business. And every single bit of it, every transaction, was being managed by hand, with processes just begging for mistakes to happen. That's an incredible amount of risk sitting on a really, really shaky foundation. And this slide right here really shows you the huge gap they needed to cross. Over on the left, you've got the daily reality, just a total mess of Excel sheets, paper forms, people checking things by eye. And on the right, that's the dream, a simple, structured, and automated system. The real trick, of course, was figuring out how to get from one side to the other without completely halting the business.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this story. It's got 5 key stops. First, we'll get our hands dirty and diagnose the chaos in this €1 million business. Then, we'll look at the core principles that guided the fix. After that, we'll see the new system in action, check out how they actually measured success, and finally, we'll talk about the true, deep value of making a change like this. First things first, let's diagnose the problem. You can't build a solution if you don't really, truly understand what's causing all the chaos in the first place. So, what was actually broken here? So this is where the pain was. And it wasn't one giant disaster. It was more like death by 1,000 paper cuts. You've got inconsistent data being entered over and over, prices being checked by eye, which is just a recipe for disaster. But this last one, implicit rules, that's the real danger zone. This is all that crucial knowledge that's trapped inside one person's head. If that person wins the lottery or just decides to leave, the business basically grinds to a halt.
And here it is. This is the core diagnosis. The business wasn't drowning in too much data, it was drowning in disorganized data. The problem wasn't the sheer volume of it all, it was the fragmentation, bits and pieces all over the place. This wasn't a problem that needed a bigger, more powerful database, it needed a smarter one.
So now that we've properly defined the problem, it's time to talk about the solution. But here's the thing. Before you write a single line of code or design an app, you need a philosophy. You need a set of core ideas that will guide every single decision you make. And these were the 3 big ones. First, simplicity over sophistication. If a process can be a single click, it absolutely should be. Second, and this one is huge, automation over trust. Don't just hope people will be careful, build a system that makes it almost impossible to make a mistake. And finally, guided workflows. The system itself should always be showing the user exactly what to do next. No guesswork. Okay, so let's see how these principles actually got put into practice. It's time to look at how that philosophy became a real tool that people could actually use every single day. Now, the technology they chose was deliberately simple, using tools the company probably already had. You can think of it like this. SharePoint lists acted as the central, organized library for all the data, one single source of truth. Power Apps was like the friendly librarian at the front desk, a simple app that let mechanics easily find what they need and record information using dropdowns. And then Power Automate was the engine in the back office, automatically creating all the documents, doing the boring work.
Now this right here, you're looking at the brain of the entire new system. This single structured model makes sure that every piece of information, the vehicle, the specific job, all the parts, they all connect logically to one single repair record. This is the technical cure for that fragmentation and inconsistency we talked about. No more random orphaned data floating around. And for the mechanics on the shop floor, their job just became this simple. Select the vehicle, select the type of job, boom. The system automatically adds all the parts that are always required for that specific job. The mechanic just has to confirm the quantities, maybe add some optional parts from a pre-approved list, and hit submit. That's that guided workflow principle in action. It makes the right way the absolute easiest way. So having a new system is nice and all, but it's totally meaningless without results. So the big question is, how do we know if this whole thing actually worked? It's time to measure the real-world impact. So let's really ask that question. What does success actually look like here? It's not just about whether the tech works, right? It's about whether the business works better. And these are the real-world metrics that prove it. First, do the mechanics, the people using it every day, actually prefer the app to the old paper system. User adoption is everything. Can invoices now be generated with a single click? Are those expensive pricing errors completely gone? And finally, is the time spent on admin work measurably, noticeably lower? These are the outcomes that really matter.
Okay, this brings us to our final and I think most important section, because after all of this, the diagnosis, the design, the build, we have to ask what the real lasting value is. And I'll give you a hint. It's not the app itself. It is so important to get this. The biggest win from this entire project isn't the cool app or the automated workflows. Nope, those are just the tools they use to get the job done. The real victory is something much deeper. And this right here, this is the core takeaway of this entire story. The real value was in capturing all those unwritten rules, all that stuff that was stuck in someone's head, and building it directly into the system. It took repetitive, manual tasks and gave them a permanent, reliable structure. The system didn't just automate the work, it basically codified the business's own unique intelligence. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Take a look at your own work, or your team, or your own business. What are the hidden rules that only one or two people really know? What repetitive tasks are being done purely from memory? Because finding that hidden knowledge and turning it into a system, well, that's where the real transformation begins.